Well, if that music doesn't get you jumping, nothing will. But Mr. Jowers will. He is our guest tonight. And I wanted to have him on for a long time as our first guest because he was the one that popped in my mind because Officer Jowers, yep, he's a police officer, retired now, but still working with our police department. And he has seen it all for 20 years. Now, listen, guys, 20 years this man was a school resource officer. Have you seen some stuff, Mr. Jowers? Well, we're going to talk about that stuff. And of course, I have Mr. Denver here with me tonight, and we're going to bounce ideas and thoughts off of what Mr. Jowers believes in. Number one, he knows what's going on in the home because there's no adult parent relationship with dad. What happened to the dad? Well, it's the same thing that happened to common sense parenting. Where did it go? And in my ministry, we've worked with primarily parents of adolescents. And I can tell you this, if our phone rang, more than likely it was a mother calling us, not a dad. And that's sad because the men are supposed to be the leaders of the home. And I'm confident that Keith Jowers can address those issues tonight. He's been our police officer at camp when we had camps. And again, he has seen it all. So we're going to talk about some of the things that he's seen and what we have been doing now for 24 years. And I think it's going to be interesting from the parent standpoint to understand what is going on in our homes today. Well, as I said, Keith, welcome. We're glad you're here tonight. And I know for a fact that there's a lack of parenting in our homes today. That's what I've been dealing with for a long time. And that's exactly why we have primarily moved from working with parents of adolescents to parents with kids 10 and below. Well, why would I do that? Well, it's simple. By the time that parent gets to us with an adolescent, that kid's negative behavior is absolutely ingrained. They don't want to give up, which is control. And this is what it looks like in your homes. We're trying to keep Loving Solutions, the program that we teach, the curriculum that we teach, from ever getting to this point right here. Because, guys, that's a sad picture when you've worked hard all day and you come home to this. And it's not going to change unless you have a parenting plan. And that's what we do. So we're here tonight, tomorrow, whatever time zone you're looking at this, with a warning. Please don't let it happen. If you've got a 5-year-old stomping their foot and yelling at you right now, you don't want to be dealing with that kid when they're 12 or 14. I can promise you. So, oh, by the way, before I go any further, we also want to remind you that we wrote a book. Well, not we, I wrote a book called Tackling Life Challenges, and it's all about what's going on in our homes today. And I want to encourage you to go to Amazon, purchase the book. I think it's a good read, and I think you will enjoy reading the book. And it focuses on respect, anger management, work ethic, and how it impacts our community. Mr. Denver, you got anything to say before we get started?
Well, it's very important, like you said, about, what happened to the home, what happened to fathers. It is very important that we bring back common sense parenting and the structure of the family as it was in years past. This is why our families are suffering, and I thank God for people like Keith Jowers who recognized the problem, and he's actually doing something about it, as we very well do. So, with our combined efforts, we're trying to help families become whole. That is always the goal, and so I just thank God for this channel, and hopefully we'll get the word out and be able to help hurting families.
Mr. Jowers, let me ask you this question. From a school resource officer, have you absolutely seen the impact of parents not being on board, particularly a dad.
Well, thank you, Glenn and Denver, actually, for inviting me to your show. We've talked about this for many times, even as a police officer out on camp and some of the situations we had to deal with out there. But one thing I knew about you two gentlemen, it wasn't about control. It was about your heart for those children and those parents. And that's why I've supported you ever since pretty much the beginning, uh, way back when, because
Yeah.
I was actually referring some of my parents to you then. But
Mhm.
so yes, I think that today we're in a situation that it I think it's just out of control. We talk about this epidemic or this pandemic or whatever, but it really I've been seeing the epidemic of fatherlessness for years, and it actually goes back to even back in the '60s when my dad died behind me one night in August 1969. I was 11 years old. My mom never remarried, but I saw that my older brothers they were out doing their own thing, but I was the youngest, so I was trying to do the man stuff there. Well, today we see a lot of children trying to control the household and not doing the things that like being respectful to their parents. I mean, I never would think about talking back to my mom. I mean, she was a widow working hard. So but as a school resource officer for all the years that I was, I it was the best part of my it was the best tenure of my life as a police officer because I was involved in children's lives each and every day. Sometimes I'd go into my office, and before I could put my coffee cup down, there was a child or a student there ready to talk to me about something that happened the night before or something going on in their home or whatever. So I was not only a police officer, I was a pastor, I was a parent. I was everything to a child sometimes because they didn't have that positivity at home. I would have loved to have a father at home teaching me some of the things, changing tires, checking my oil in my truck, anything I had to do, I had to learn on my own because mom really didn't know, but I was just so inquisitive about learning that kind of stuff because dad wasn't there. So when I saw some of the stories I saw, gentlemen, it broke my heart. When I shut my door after a conference, I had over 3,000 counseling sessions in a matter of 10 years at one school. And that's with parents and or children. And I literally I logged everyone, and some of the stories just broke my heart because the all it took was an involved parent, a mom or a dad or both of them. If they're separated, I still feel like dads and moms are important if they're positive and not harming the child physically.
Right.
I still think they're important. To kind of fast forward after when my dad died and I was a young married young adult, 3 years into marriage, it was ending not because I wanted it, but just because it did. And that situation back then, we were both young, but we had a daughter, a year and a half, and I decided at that moment when I walked out of that courtroom, I would never divorce my child. I would be involved in her life one way or the other. So, and I was there through elementary schools, plays, musicals, whatever she was involved in, I was there playing sports. And then come to find out that later on, she obviously, she got married. Now she has grandchildren. Now I consider that my dividends. You guys know about that. When you're involved father, when you're a good father, whether you're a divorced father or you're at home, and some dads are at home but they're not involved. Okay,
Yep.
then your dividends of being involved like that are your grandchildren. But yet, when I go into some of the homes, because I had to do some home visits and all, it broke my heart. I mean, just there was so much out of control in the home that no wonder the student would rather, talk to somebody at school that was a positive person. So, yes, I've seen a lot. I've got a couple stories if we get there, but my goodness, it just broke my heart to see some of the things I've seen. And now, all these years later, what I'm seeing today.
Yeah. I know. And I've been saying this for 24 years. As the home goes, so goes America. And guys, we all can just watch the news.
That's
You
right.
can see where America is. And if it's that bad out there, how bad is it in the house?
Mm.
Behind those doors. And so our organization, from the day we started had one goal. That was to put peace back in the home. And guess what? It started with the parent, the adult, not the child. Because this is what I've learned. When that child has someone that they respect and look up to, they will follow them. But you can't throw a stinking iPad or iPhone to these kids and expect them to grow up and not be any problems. It ain't going to work. So I know, Keith, for a fact that you have a ministry that you've worked very hard to develop over the years called Dad for Life. How did that even get started?
Well, being growing up obviously without a dad, I saw how important that was, and then being a young divorced dad and making that decision that I would never divorce my child, I would be involved. Little did I know that several years later, that God would actually have me talking to four dads at our church that were either at divorce or going through divorce or thinking about divorce, or their spouse was. And I said, regardless, the situations, however that comes about, you you've got to be involved in the child's life. You've got to be there for them because it's so important. And at that time, I had started seeing some of the results and the interest made in my investment. I consider that the greatest asset on earth, actually, is not at the stock market because it'll let you down, but interest in your children. And when I decided that, all these years later, I'm working with these four dads. I come home, I'm sitting in actually this office where I'm at right now, and I look at my wife and I said, I just think we ought to start an organization, and all I want to do is help a dad for life. And that's because I was helping four dads, and that's how we got started. I won't say it's been easy, as you gentlemen know. When running any business or even a nonprofit, it has its ebb and flow. But you know
Yep.
what? When it's flowing, it's worth it, because when I have a dad crying at me after an event one time and said, "Thank you for just saying what you said." I don't even remember what I said at that point, but this has been back in 2018. He said, "My child, I thought we were done, but I'm going to take that suggestion. I'm going to go home and we're going to start this all over again." And they're both adults now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. I wrote a book many years ago, Part-Time Dad, Full-Time Heart, and I suggested in there, forget Christmas. What? Forget Christmas? No, go on a family vacation. Spend some memory time together. And they came back, that family appreciated that more than any gift that you can unwrap. It's going to be thrown away a few weeks down the road sometimes, because
What was the name of that book again? Because I read it and I is that still in print? Can we get it?
I don't know. That's been a long time ago.
Yeah, I
We
know.
but it's Part-Time Dad, Full-Time Heart.
Yeah.
And I wrote
Great
another.
book.
I actually thought about revising that one, and I wrote another one called Daily Connections, which is for parents trying to connect. And then I wrote two officer-friendly books too for children and parents to read to their children. So, I've tried my hand at that, but it takes time. As you well know, how long it took you to start your book, and you finally sat down and got it done. But it's amazing what you can do when you focus. This world is going to pass us by. Focus on these children, because if something happens to you, and we've recently seen some young dads, pass on what they've invested, and I can see it in their children's eyes saying, just miss my dad so much. Well, I've been to funerals of some of my students, their parents, and they don't miss their dad. I mean, that's pretty sad, you
Yeah.
know. So it's just an investment. It's a time, and anything we invest in anything. I mean, you guys know as much time you invested out there, you've had a lot of success. But times have changed. Things are changing. That's fine. But your investment in each other and I mean, your family is never going to change. Never going to change, because somewhere down the road, things are going to work out, because, prayers, God will eventually answer them. We raise them up in the way they go, and hopefully, or they should go, and hopefully they're going to listen to that prayer one day from the Lord reaching and touching them. So,
I have dealt with many families, and of course, Denver does counseling. For those who don't know this, Mr. Denver has a mental health counseling background degree, and he does it all the time. But I can tell you how traumatic it is for a single mother to try to raise two or three kids by herself. I have a real heart for these mothers, because there's no man to stand up to these boys and say, "You're not going to do that." Well, until I come into the picture, because I will stand up. We had a family living in Hawaii. And I kept telling Sheila, we got to go to Hawaii. We couldn't get over there. But they moved back to the States. And the first week they got back, Mr. Glenn was standing in that house. They hadn't even unpacked. I wanted that boy to know, I'm back. I'm back. And guess what? He has straightened up and he's flying right now, simply because there was a male in his life. And by the way, you don't have to be a mean guy to be a daddy. You can be loving, you can have rules and boundaries and consequences, and still have a relationship, because I don't care how many rules you got. If you have no relationship, you got nothing. Right, Mr. Denver?
Yeah, and when you have those rules and boundaries and consequences, you're teaching that child how to live in the real world. Often not, we don't see it that way. We think that's, oh, you're just being mean or being a mean parent. No, you do it because you love them. When you don't do it, that shows me you don't care about that child, because now you're really setting them up for major failure in life, and you don't
Aren't you
realize
your,
what's happening.
aren't you your
And we were
kid's
just talking.
friend?
Absolutely not. And I made it very clear to all nine of them, I'm not your friend. I'm your daddy. And it's always going to be that way. And there's always going to be respect. And don't you ever cross that boundary, because if you do, there will
Mm-hmm.
be consequences. And so I've set a standard, and I am not budging from that standard under any circumstances, because I
Yeah.
love them too much. And this is how we have to look, giving the child what they need, which is good order, structure, and discipline. And when you do that on a consistent basis, and I know Keith can attest to it, when you do it, and that shows that child they feel safe with you. They do. They feel safe. And when you don't do it, they don't care about me. They'll say
Amen.
it. I've heard kids say it. My parents don't
Yeah.
care what I do. You got something, Glenn? Go
No, no,
ahead.
no. I was just stretching my. But it made me think about just what I've seen. Well, I guess they call it like Kroger fits or whatever in the grocery store when the child doesn't get the cereal.
You say Kroger
That's
fits?
what Dave Ramsey called them before. But the thing is that when they get all these and you're still trying to calm that child down, get that child. If if that had ever been me, that child would have gone out of the store. You're not going to sit there and do that to all these people.
That's right.
So it just kind of reminds me that with these phones today, I mean, oh my goodness, that solely distracts you from being involved with your family, because they're locked up in their room sometimes. And I saw a video today that was just funny. It was a child come out of his room saying, "The internet's down." And another child come out and says, "Fix it, Dad." And another one child comes out and says, "Dad, we got to fix this now." He says, "Well, it's good. Now we can have a family meeting now that you're all in the hallway with me," because they were all in their room after school. He shut the
That's right.
internet off. So
Yeah.
it was just awesome. You got to be thinking sometimes, to have these creative ideas, but it's important. I would have loved to have had a dad all my life. These gentlemen, friends of mine that lose their dad now, they're 79, 80 years old, I reach out to them and I said, it's such a blessing to have your dad that long. It really is. But when you're an
Yeah.
11-year-old boy and trying to make it in a world without a father, or you're a divorced child and your father is nowhere to be found, he is a representative of you. You might want to invest in him a little bit because he's carrying on that name. And the daughters, you want them. I'm sorry, I just get off on a trail here, but dads, it's not our job to teach our daughters how to be a lady. It's our job to teach our daughters how a lady should be treated.
Yeah.
And so at 16 years old, I took our daughter I took her out on a date, opened the door for her, paid her bill. But anyway, but I talked to her about these things, and she held the standard with them, because I think it's so important. It's so important that you set the example of what you want, whether you're divorced in situations that we know that, I mean, gentlemen, we have almost 20 million children living in the U.S. in a fatherless home. 20 million, and
Yeah.
that's a recent stat. So, and over 80% of the single parent households, they're led by mothers only. That fathers are nowhere near coming to the house, and the government keeps up with all these statistics and all, but what's the true number? That's just what they keep up with.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah. And then that's so discouraging too, because when you have these kids in these single mom homes, the statistics show that that's where a lot of our children end up in prison as a result of that, because they don't have the structure and guidance of a man to be able to teach them. And the fathers that are in the home, they don't, sometimes they neglect their duties because they
Yep.
don't know what to teach. They have they have not been taught themselves. And so, and that's why it's incumbent upon, men like us to reach out and grab hold and do what we can. Because, one of the saddest things for me is that I'm a 20-year veteran, and I've been in 2 wars overseas on board ship, and was getting ready to go boots on the ground until they shut that off. Well, when you serve like that in other countries, you know, I don't want to come back here and get shot down on the street because we have poor family structures, which leads to all of this and the damage it caused. So Glenn said it earlier, the family is the key to a
Yep.
successful country. It is. And if we don't take the initiative and be intentional, this is really what we have to do. We have to, and I want all men to pay attention, reach out and help somebody. Don't be selfish. And I thank God for you, Keith, because you've done that, man. You're putting in the effort to at least do something to help that family thrive and become better. Whether it be divorce, whether it be whole families, you're doing it, man. We're trying to make that happen all over, and so that's why I thank
Well,
God for
and,
your
and I
ministry.
thank God for you guys too, and Glenn's vision way back when. It just is things evolve sometimes. If you're not involved in your child's life, think about it. I mean, I heard Zig Ziglar say this one time. He says, "Well, if you have a racehorse and you've put millions and millions of dollars in there, would you let him stay up all night and let him eat junk food all the time and never move around, or would you like him out there, staying in shape and winning?" Of
Yeah.
course, we want our children to win, and I just, we see the news like Glenn said earlier. Turn on the news and what we had just recently here in Jacksonville, with all the kids just running wild and crazy downtown, at 2 in the morning or so, whatever time it was. But now we have the curfew, so we have to make sure we know where our children are. The
Keith,
local
I
news
just,
says
I
that.
just, I just, I just heard on the news today a 14-year-old kid in Orange Park shot and killed both parents,
Yeah.
called the police, and walked down to a church and sat on the steps and waited for him to get there. 14 years old. What happened? Well, I can tell you one thing that happened. There probably wasn't any church in that home at all. Wasn't any faith in that home at all, because I know this, and I'm not a preacher. I've just observed when families go to church and live according to the godly principles that they will learn at church, it's going to be a whole lot better when it comes to raising a child. But these kids that are being raised on iPhones and iPads and nobody's paying attention to them, when they get mad, you better watch out, because they have no anger management skills whatsoever.
That's right.
And that just happened recently. And it's happening all across the country.
Yes.
In 1899, the first juvenile uh, organization was put together in Cook County, Illinois. That's a long time ago. Has it gotten any better? Will it ever get any better? Well, when you incarcerate a child for any length of time, they will behave long enough to get out of that environment. They haven't changed. Most of them come out worse than they went in. And yet we keep building jails. What if we could convince the
Yep.
Department of Juvenile Justice to invest those dollars before the child gets into the system instead of waiting until they are in the system to help them? That's the process that we go through right now. That's how I got started 25 years ago. I've been doing this 24, but 25 years ago, I saw firsthand how a kid who went nuts because of one marijuana joint And he was a good kid who absolutely became a drug addict, a runaway, a thief, a liar, and he wound up standing before a judge. And at that point, the parents had already begged the police, the judge, everybody, put him in jail. I would rather visit him there than the morgue because he's going to kill himself or somebody else. And there was nothing they could do until he broke a law that could be enforced. Am I saying the truth, Keith?
You are. I mean, because I've talked to dads that literally would cry in some of my sessions with them simply because they don't know what to do. And then we'd start from back. Okay, let's get back to the basics, like the
Yeah.
song him used to sing. Let's get back to the basics of life. Let's go back. There's nothing wrong with sitting down with your children, finding out who they're hanging with, their friends. Just communicate, talk. There's nothing that bothers me more than going to a restaurant. You got a family sitting there and they all have their iPhones out and they're all looking at their iPhones, including sometimes the parents. I'm
Yeah.
going like, really? That's the best time. And
I
then
know.
if you just put that down, I ruined my iPhone recently. Just ruined it. And it never mixes with a tractor. Okay, I'll just tell you that. Anyway, so I'm like, Linda said, you know, you're going to get another one right eventually. Well, eventually, but no. Then I kind of realized, man, how much we depend on these things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I kind of like it. It's not ringing right now. So, but anyway, so it's like when I took it there, I said, ma'am, my phone's not working. Can you fix it? And she said, I can fix it. I said, okay. So I opened up the box. She said, I can't fix that. We can fix our kids if we just love our kids first. I just believe in that. I wish I'd had that. I wish I'd had that. My mother was giving me overloads of it. Don't get me wrong, but together we were trying to make ends meet. And but today we got all this technology. There's no reason you can't learn how to love on your children and be better children, be better for them as their investment, as an investment, because there's so much out there, so many teachers like you guys, and that are out there that we can find free stuff. We don't have to pay for it all. You need free stuff to learn how to do it, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
It's worth it.
You know,
Getting out of here alive. I mean, if I go, I want my daughter to be an investment to other people, and it paid off recently. I saw her do that. I saw her do something that she saw Glenn and I do, and I said, she actually did that, and it blessed a single mom. So they're watching, believe it or not, they're watching.
Keith,
Yes.
I'm also divorced, and it was all my fault, not my first wife, Joe. But like you said, I did not divorce my kids. I'll remember like it was yesterday. My daughter was a cheerleader. She came home. Somebody was bringing her, and the girl driving said, "What's your dad cutting your mom's grass for?" Because she needed it cut. If there was a problem, call me. You don't have to call somebody else and pay them money. I will be there. When those kids got in trouble, I was there. The bottom line was when their mother died, I was holding their mom in the hospital. I was right there. I never walked away, and they never saw us argue, my kids. You don't talk bad about your mama, and I know she's not talking bad about me. We co-parented those kids, and they're great kids today because we didn't abandon them. I don't know where my son would have been today, but I can promise you this: the direction he was going, there ain't no telling. He'd be dead or in jail. I guarantee you that. That was my boy. So the bottom line is, in closing, Keith, tell me what you think the benefits there are of having a dad in the home.
Well, I think it boosts academic achievement. I think it strengthens emotional health for them. I mean, how much mental illness issues we have going on in our country today, right? I think it improves social skills and encourages positive behavior. Teach your boys how to change a tire and take care of things, that are simple, really. Teach even if your mom's not around, and I've had situations where mom has passed and dad's trying to do that role too. So
Mhm.
there's so much strength out there and encouragement through groups that we can get together on social media and learn. I think benefits of providing just that positive role model, but you got to be positive. You have
Mhm.
to be positive. I heard Zig say, he was one of my mentors, so I can quote him again, but he said, when you come home and you got that briefcase, put it down, hug your kids, talk to your kids. Don't go in the office and just get to work again.
Yep.
It teaches essential life skills, regardless, because there's so much life skills. Watch the news sometimes. We watch uh, Flashpoint a lot, and it goes out in the street and it talks to people that they're like, I mean, you don't even know. They don't even know what country they're living in sometimes, much less the history of our country. It's just really strange to understand that if you're not involved with your children, some of the things they come up with because they're learning it elsewhere. And if you're not involved and benefiting them with your knowledge, your wisdom, it. I think they're going to learn it places they don't need to be learning it. Let me just say this one story that I remember that touched my heart. I had a girl come in, and this is many years ago, and she laid a note on my desk. She says, "I said, what's this?" She says, "Read it when I'm gone." So I read it when she was gone, and it turned out to be that the child was being sexually abused at home a lot. So I got the girl in there, and I just said, "Let me ask you what happened last night." And tears just started to flow. Well, I knew what happened last night because she told her friend. Her friend was trying to help her, and so we put that person that was causing that in jail. Okay, but it freed her up because somebody cared. What person better to care than your parents? And another quick story was a girl had cut herself so many times. She had wore long sleeves, and it was in the summertime. So the teacher got curious why you're so, feel like you're freezing over there. So anyway, come to investigation of that, she had cut herself 75 times on one arm and 75 times on another arm. I was almost in tears, gentlemen. I looked at her and I said, "Why, honey?" She said, "That's how many times my dad, I didn't feel like he loved me. And that's how many times I feel like my dad didn't love me. 150 times." Now, that could be a little exaggerated on her part, but the thing is that she felt unloved at home. She never wanted to go home. And she was a teenager, a middle aged teenager. So we have to show love. We have to be there for them, regardless of whether you're divorced or at home. But if you're at home, be at home, be involved,
Yep.
play catch with your children or whatever. I went to ballet dances, with my daughter because do I understand ballet? Absolutely not. But I watched her do it.
Yep.
So just be involved. That's a benefit because one day your children's going to be involved helping somebody else down the road. I coined a phrase many years ago, gentlemen. It says, "You go through life helping only yourself, you'll go through life alone." There's a lot of lonely people out there. So because they only want to think about themselves, not even their own children. So
Keith, we deal with a lot of angry kids, Denver and I, and you've been around those angry kids too. There always is a reason. There's something going on that we don't understand. And as I tell my parents that we work with, do not take it personal. They find out why they are always angry. Pray and ask God for wisdom, guidance, and direction to deal with this child, and just calmly look them in the eye and say, honey, I know you're upset, but I love you. And I'm here for you anytime you need me. Our whole organization is founded on love and affection. If we don't have that kind of a foundation to stand on, it won't crumble. If that kid knows that you love them unconditionally, no matter what they do, yeah, you'll be upset. Yeah, they'll break your heart. But guys, you can't give up on these kids because if you give up, nobody else is going to give a flip about your kid. And so, with that, Denver, we're going to wrap it up now. Any thoughts before we back out?
I just wanted to say I'm very proud to hear your story, Glenn, and it's always important to note that not only did you take care of your ex-wife and your children, but your wife even had a great hand in building those bonds and relationship and bridging the gap. And so it is possible. I see a lot of divorced families. I'm dealing with one right, getting ready to get divorced now. I'm trying to help the process out. And my goal is always to do exactly, Glenn, to show them the way you've done it. And I'm proud of you for being able to not divorce your children, um, but build a bridge. And that's what's important. Forgiveness and long suffering, and just being able to put the effort in, forgetting about your pride and the arrogance, and just doing what is necessary for that child. And this is what I think he teaches a lot of dads. So many people are bitter, and they need to forgive, and they need to realize what is at stake by not investing in their children. And so I'm just proud of to hear both of you guys' story. It's important, and the message certainly needs to get out. And I thank God for this time to be able to share, and I hope parents be
Amen.
blessed by
Thank
it.
you, Keith, for coming on tonight. I knew we was going to have a good conversation because you're a good guy.
Well, thank you, John. It was
Amen.
an honor.